Hi, if you or your children are suffering because of your relationship with your ex-partner, because it's stressed or strained, or maybe they're just not a nice person, this show is for you. Welcome to the High Conflict Co-Parenting Podcast with Brooke Olson and Charlie Jewett. Enjoy another episode now. All right, Mr. Brooke, this is episode 11. Believe it or not, we're above 10. We're talking about the core issues that create conflict. I'm assuming this is conflict with ex-partners, right?
Correct. This is in divorce. This is the pieces that can create conflict in custody issues. Yeah, the issues that are driving in the background, the things that are causing it to catch fire and to continue to burn.
So people should expect, right? I remember a long time ago I took a class and they said anger comes from unmet expectations. So one of the things you can do is lower your expectations. We should not expect to have a peaceful interactions with our ex through every conversation, especially if we are thinking there might be a personality disorder or something, right?
Right. And, I think that the comment that anger comes out of unmet expectations also neglects the fact that underlying most anger is fear. I really started to look at this as it pertained to some of my parenting with my grandson. And I noticed that in my parenting, where I got angry wasn't about the normal stuff. I mean, the normal stuff we just kind of navigated, but when he would do something that scared me about either the present moment or about the ramifications of that behavior into his future, and how it would affect him is where my anger came. And then taking that and expanding that conversation a little bit further into how my relationships are with other people and bringing this a little more personal, my anger would start to show up around not just where I was afraid that something was going to happen to them, but where something was going to happen to me. It was an internal piece. So I think this is part of the conversation that is really going to start to pull itself apart as we start to have this discussion.
Yeah, and that's interesting to me because I've heard that anger is a secondary emotion, usually to fear, right?
Right.
Very interesting. So what makes these things so hard to talk about? I'm looking at the small little outline that you created, the money, the control, the fear, the revenge, addiction. Why is it so hard to deal with these pieces? Why do these create conflict?
Well, because first of all, I don't think people really stop to notice what's going on. Each one of these things that we're talking about, the money, the control, the fear, the revenge, the addictions or the personality traits, attachment styles that we're talking about in this, all have one common thread with them. And the common thread that runs through each one of these particular items is fear. That's the piece that is about the money, about controlling, about the revenge. Addiction is an escape from an uncontrollable sensation in our body that we can't tolerate, and the fear of coming up against that and working through that is what drives the addiction. And the personality types or the attachment styles are indicative of a particular perspective of what the world is like. And it's an adaptation to those places that we don't feel that we can navigate, right? So this fear is the piece that's really working and driving everything in the background.
Right.
And one of the things that really happens, and the kids get caught in the middle of each one of these, is that the parent isn't really looking at the large picture. We've got to have money, right?
Yeah.
And oftentimes children become the vehicle where parents fight over money.
Yeah.
I can't get out and make enough money, and I have to take care of myself and the children, and you have to continue to take care of me in that. And and I am going to fight over the percentage of how much time I get with the children, regardless of my availability or my capacity to work, or both, in order to nail this piece for support down.
Yeah.
And rather than a parent taking, responsibility and really looking at this and going, wow, I am faced with this opportunity to parent the children and get out and really step into the world and be successful and show the children what it's like to be successful and not dependent. I am going to fight for that. And this may be the person that's paying support or the person that's receiving support. I've had parents in these combinations where they're hardworking. They work 60, 70 hours a week, and they don't want to give up a portion of that to child support because there is a revenge piece or a place where they don't feel that other parent is doing their fair share of work in it, and they want to make them step up and do something that they may or may not be capable of. Because again, when we're talking about, these types of personalities that are involved with conflict, especially when we move into some of the personality disorders, that they don't have the ability to get out into the workplace and do it because they cause so much chaos, or they don't have the potency to hold a job, or they're argumentative, or they're just not wanting, but they're just in that place of being a victim to the world, and they're in some level of depression. I mean, we can look at this from so many angles, but bringing this back to, as the parent, as the one person that's trying to navigate this, to get our head around what's really taking place here. It's important. It's essential to be able to navigate this, to go through each one of these checklists and go, what is mine and what is theirs and what is in between? Because most everybody, as they are dismantling their relationship, they are looking at, first of all, let's talk about the money or the asset conversation. This is mine. This isn't yours. I did this. You didn't do this. I came in with that. That's mine. You didn't support me in this. I can't move forward because you kept me stuck. And that is mine because you kept me stuck in this. And the money topic goes, or the asset topic goes in so many directions. I remember going through my second divorce, and this was a crack up because there weren't a lot of assets left. We were coming out of 2008, 2009, 2010, and things had just deteriorated in so many directions, not just financially, but within our relationship, partially because of the finance piece. And when we got down to splitting assets, there wasn't a whole lot to split, and we were stepping into an argument about whose horse was whose. And it was like, really? You want to have that conversation? What paid for that asset? Yeah. And there was a fight about it because of what the belief was about who contributed to, that piece. It's like, who gets what dog? What's that about? Right?
Yeah. Dogs and horses. That's what you guys are fighting about?
We didn't fight about the dogs. We just fought about the horses. It was interesting because having gone through a divorce before, I took the fight out. I just simply went and picked up my horse and moved it to another barn. That was the end of that conversation.
Yeah.
But, and really in being able to, assess what needs to happen and to be able to do that, there's some things that you can't do in terms of assets. And I'm not in that comment, suggesting that somebody do something similar, but it's this arena of really looking at why we're fighting over this and what is really going on, because there's legitimate fights, right?
Right.
There's legitimate pieces where you've got to look and you go, no, I am not going to give that up. There's not a reason for me to give that up. And then there's another conversation that's got to come on right next to it is what is the cost to me for hanging on to that piece, and what can I give up in order to settle this issue?
Right.
So if I can give that up and let that other person settle a little bit, then I can move forward. Then I can say, okay, we're separate. I'm going down the road, and now it's up to you to make what you need to make, and it's up to me to make what I need to make. But
Right.
sometimes we can't even get to that conversation because somebody is stuck in this place of, you owe me. You said you were going to take care of me.
I understand that.
I know you do. I know you do. And but even within that conversation, we've got to get our head around why that's even taking place and come out of resistance to it. Like, we don't have to bend into it, but we've got to understand that from the other person's standpoint, they are in existential crisis around us, right?
Yeah.
They are in existential crisis. How am I going to do this? You always brought in the money. You always paid the bills. I was in charge of taking care of the kids. And now I'm still in charge of taking the kids, even though you're ready, the other parent is ready to take on that responsibility as well. But they are ill-equipped from the very essence of who they are, oftentimes, to be able to do that, because we stepped in as the person to take care of everybody. And that was our codependent piece that we played into that caused that piece. So we've got both of that conversation taking place simultaneously. And if, as parents, as ex-partners or soon-to-be ex-partners, we can't get our head around that conversation and come out of judgment and or our own existential crisis in it, we are going to be destined to stay with that particular part of the conflict issues that we're talking about today and spin in it and spin it and spin it. And the resources that we blow, the emotional resources, the financial resources, the time resources that we waste through that process are enormous. Whereas if we could sit down and go, okay, let me get my head around this. What do I need here? How do I really package this in a way that I can at least get my separation and know that I can make this up in the back end and get this person alleviated from this conflict, this part of the conflict, by training them, by throwing a little extra money at the process. I mean, as a mediator, these are the conversations that I'm always having. And then you come up against that line of, this is my boundary, I'm not willing to go any further on that. And then, okay, I'm going to take one last step to try to turn this over. So this may cost me an extra 10 grand, but it's going to save me an enormous amount of time and in my ability to move out of this and really create more resource for me down the road.
Yeah.
So that's the money component, right?
Yeah.
Do you have anything that you want to throw into that piece?
No, I'm noticing on the outline you've got revenge, addiction. You're right; those are interesting, right?
Right.
So it's these are hard people to negotiate with. They're hard people to fight with, right?
Mm-hmm.
How does revenge and addiction play into this?
Well, revenge is this idea of you hurt me, right?
Right.
And I'm going to hurt you back for hurting me. And I'm going to find a way that I can get to you the hardest. And part of that sometimes is through the kids. I'm going to take the kids away. Right?
Yeah.
I'm going to punish you. I'm going to get you where your heart is most vulnerable.
Yeah.
And again, that's that attachment piece of leaving. You left me. Or if I'm the person that left, you did not supply me with what I needed. to stay in the relationship. You're bad, you're evil, and I'm going to punish you for being bad and evil.
Right.
You cheated on me. You left me without anything. You broke my heart. And now I'm going to punish you for the pain that you've caused me. And that is, again, it's a victim component of not taking responsibility for how you got there, for what you did in it. And most people that are doing that type of behavior have been hugely responsible in the relationship for creating conflict or creating the breakup of it. They're not looking at where they didn't step into the relationship, where they were withholding their attention or their love or whatever component was that was there.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've thought about that for a long time. It's like, I'm not pro cheating. I didn't cheat, right? It's not anything that's a part of my life, but there is some element of your ex cheating on you that was you not being enough or them not being satisfied or somehow they were unhappy. It probably should have broke up before that point.
Right, or never gotten into it. And sometimes, that person is, through their personality type, through their attachment style, pre-set up to do that.
Yeah.
Because they can't get enough of, there's never enough of the other person, and there's this want for this rush and this attachment, this early attachment piece where everything is just, oh, this is so wonderful, and the oxytocin comes in through the sex and all of that, and they are pulled away, but they don't see the damage that they leave behind by that behavior, because this is an addictive piece. And you talked about addiction,
right?
And addicts, by their very nature, are not seeing what it is that they're causing to the other person. Their need to meet the rush of that addiction is more important than the relationship that's there.
And some people are addicted to either sex or the newness of a relationship, right? Like getting somebody interested in you, the fight and the conquer, right?
Right. Well, the other piece that happens in new relationships, and I said it before, is the rush of the oxytocin. That is a bonding piece that is in our physiology, and when we have sex, that oxytocin comes up, and then there's that, oh, this is wonderful, oh, you're wonderful, and everything goes out the window. We don't see what the next piece is, and as we go through our relationships, some of the polish wears off, and we start to see what's underneath some of that. And if we're healthy, we just come into relationship with that. We work through that. We help one another understand each other and ourselves through that process.
Right.
But where health isn't in here, and what we're talking about is one or both parents not having a high degree of health, this is where things get lost. And this is the component, this is the pieces where, if we look at the money and the control and these other components, and we really start to break them down, we can do things differently.
And I feel like I've experienced that, and not to be arrogant, but I feel like how's one of the ways I know I'm a healthy man is in my relationships. I go, okay, that was the honeymoon phase. That was wonderful, right? It was exhilarating and awesome and everything. And now it's worn off. And now we're sort of into normalness and regularity. This is probably the point where other people cheat or go out and find something new and stimulating. And yet that's never been my path. I want to stay with the same person. So, okay, well, let's just move into normalness, right? Let's just be loving to each other. That's one of the ways. I mean, I'm not healthy in every area. Nobody is, but that's one of the areas I feel like I'm healthy, but that's not the norm. Some people just go look for excitement, exhilaration, and oxytocin by cheating and playing around, right?
Well, I think I think, Charlie, that it is the norm, and that the stuff that we're looking at here is out of the norm.
Mm.
The norm is for people to try to move deeper into relationship, to move deeper into intimacy, and to challenge their beliefs about their relationship so they can do so. I think that that is much more prominent than the other side of this. But that being said, these other components are always lurking in the shadows. They're always there. But in health, they're noticed. It's like, oh, I am jealous of this person for having money or having an asset, or I don't feel like they're sharing this with me like they should share this with me. And it becomes an exploration rather than for something to blow up. And it becomes a conversation that's in the open where we pull it out of the shadows. It's where this stuff is in the shadows that is problematic.
Yep.
Where it's not in the conversation that keeps us out of intimacy. Why are you withholding the money? Why does it feel like there's not a mutuality in this back and forth? And then to explore that in a way that, we can come into mutuality. Why does it feel like I have to control your every move or whatever's going on? And then to take responsibility for that and to explore that so we can come into greater intimacy, right?
Yeah.
This is how relationships evolve. It's where they stay in the shadows that they devolve. And it's also where they're in the shadows in the breakup or in the beginnings of the conflict that it's problematic and it continues to devolve. I mean, these are the arenas, Charlie, that break down relationships in the beginning, and they are the continuation of the de-evolution of it post-separation.
Right. Now, fears play a huge role in relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
So understanding someone's own fears, whether they come from childhood or whatever, right? That's kind of a big part of this. So we have our listeners listening, and you may have an ex who's got one of these personality disorders. You're not going to change them. We need to just manage this. What role does understanding your own fears play in this whole thing?
Well, it's coming into awareness of where I am out of alignment with what's the right thing to do here. I mean, I'm afraid that I'm not going to have enough money to take care of myself and to take care of my children. Where's the reality in that? Okay. And to be able to really look at that as a possible reality, but also the probability that that is not a real fear, that there's something that is there that is going to create some struggle, but I'm going to be able to find my way through that struggle, that it may be harder for me to do this on my own, but I can do this on my own.
Right.
And if a parent takes that kind of a attitude, that self-responsibility that comes out of that takes away anything that the other parent is pinging them over. So they're not contributing. Well, okay, they're not contributing. That sucks, but I can do this, right?
Right.
And by me being able to do this on my own, I've eliminated a distraction to my future. I've eliminated something that is getting in the way of my energy that needs to propel me and my children into the future. It's like, how am I going to do this and get through it? It's like, just to bring this back to my own situation over the course of the last year or so, as it pertained to my grandson, it's like, he had a major need to get out of an abusive place where he was living with his mom. And I'm sitting and I'm looking around and I'm going, well, I don't know if I can handle this in terms of all of the things that it's going to take for me to do it, in terms of the money, in terms of the time, so I can keep my business going, which is a part of the money, which is a part of getting the kid to school and doing the things because I hadn't done it in years, and I'm going, oh my God. And the bottom line is, yeah, I just need to pick up the ball and I just need to go, and everything else will figure itself out, which it absolutely did. But that doesn't mean that in the beginning of that I wasn't majorly pinged. I was.
Yeah.
And there was a retraction to it. But by not going at the other person to support me in that and just looking around and going, I got this, he was able to settle because there wasn't an argument of, what his needs were. And I was able to settle because I wasn't in an argument with his mom, right?
Right.
And by eliminating that fear around money, that it just stepped away. And the piece around control, like, I only got so much control here, and I'm just going to take care of what I've got in front of me. I'm not going to do battle over this stuff. I'm just going to let this evolve.
Right.
But it takes an immense amount of paying attention to what it is, but not just for me. And this is the rub, Charlie.
Okay.
I have to pay attention to what is pinging that other person. I don't have to fix it for them. But if I understand that their concern is that they don't think that I'm a great parent, I can sit down and go, okay, maybe there's a component here that's true.
Right.
And let me explore that for a moment, and then let me become a better parent. What does it mean to become a better parent? Because as I up my game, because maybe I was deficient in some area, that other parent can start to relax and go, oh, he's picking up his game. I mean, this is a conversation that I have frequently with when parents are divorcing. It's like one parent will say, well, the other parent was never around. They were always off work and they were always off doing something. And they left me to take care of the kids.
Right.
And I'll go, well, yeah, that may be true. And you may be really correct that they are not as skilled at being a parent as you are. But that doesn't mean that they can't get the skills to be the parent that they need to be for the kids. And they may not do it exactly the way that you want them to do. But this is a new world, boys and girls. You guys are separated, and nothing on God's green earth is going to bring you back together in all likelihood. So let's just give that person a chance to come to speed.
Right.
And for me, as a facilitator, as a mediator, as a coach, because this is the conversation that I'm having with them. If you're coming to me and you were that person that was working all the time and you weren't there, it's like, okay, so let's really, before we do this battle about money, which is about how much the timeshare is and how much time I may be able to get the kids, let's have the first conversation about what your availability is.
Right.
Because that may change, because I am now going to be a single parent, and I don't have the luxury of having somebody at home to take care of the kids all the time. I'm going to change what I do for a living, or
Right.
I'm going to take on a different schedule that allows me to do that. And that's my that's my focus. And I am also along with that, because I wasn't in the developmental stages or the understanding of what it was to be a parent. I am going to go take a parenting class. I'm going to take a joy of parenting class. I'm going to take a redirecting children's behavior class. I'm going to take a love and logic class. I may even go back to the local junior college and take a child development class. I may take a child psychology class so I can understand better what it needs to be a good parent.
Yeah.
And if I take that on, and the other parent sees me take that on, their fear may drop.
Right.
And when their fear drops about that, we can come into more regulated co-parenting, if you will, and there's less dissidence in the field between it.
Right.
That happens if there's some level of health on both sides of the conversation. If there is this personality that is hanging out on the other side that can't see it, that is stuck in the you're all bad phase of the conversation, then they stay stuck there.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that we can do about it. But the upside to that is I, as the parent, did what I needed to do, and I feel good about what I'm doing because I am a good parent. And that's the end of that conversation, right?
Right. And that's all you can do on your side is be a good parent and do the best you can do. Go to classes.
But not everybody gets that, Charlie. Not everybody sees where they're deficient in that arena, and it becomes a defensive, narcissistic. No, I'm all good, and it's the mask of being that rather than looking and going, you know what? He's right. I'm a little short here, or she's right. I'm a little short here. I'm going to pick it up. And maybe in that conversation, say, listen, I get it. Let's set something in place where, we step this up where you can see in 6 months that I got a handle on this.
Mm-hmm.
But if somebody has been in a relationship where there's been so much emotional control, and sometimes that control goes through, the walking on eggshells with a borderline or dealing with the abuse of a narcissist in the conversation, or God keep us from having both at the same time, which often happens. I mean, that's a lot to get through. But again, to at least have a relationship with that's what's going on for them, and I can take responsibility for where they're right, because they can be right in all of this.
Right.
There's a place where they can absolutely have valid comments, and if we want to be in opposition to that, if we want to be out of acceptance of that, then we're causing more conflict through painting those core issues that are going on here.
Right. And that's one of the hardest lessons to learn is like truth is truth or right is right, no matter what the messenger is or who says it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Hitler saying 2 + 2 is 4 is true, right? Jesus saying 2 + 2 is 5 is not. Like, forget who your ex is. When they're right, they are right. And that should be honored. And then when they're not, you can deal with it. But they're not wrong 100% of the time. And frankly, some of the complaints they have about us are valid. We need to hear them.
Right. And because we are separating from them, because we have been in that place of denial for any number of things that are going on, we're going to come up and we're going to defend that piece that we shouldn't be defending.
Yeah.
I do an exercise with my parents in classes. You've done this exercise with me where you do this meditation of actually going into and connecting with that other parent and their experience of what's happening currently. And when my parents in my classes do that, there's usually this huge shift, this shock of coming into connection with what's going on for them. And it's a game changer because they can then again begin to see why that person is trying to control around these different pieces, and actually have a palpable sensation of what it's like for them. And then to come back and go, okay, that's intense. Now, what can I do to alleviate that? Not because I want to fix it for them or I want to make it better for them, but I want to not continue to ping that component in them. And in the early stages, when we're talking about money, it's like, how do we want to leverage that in a positive fashion to give them the momentum they need to let go and give us the momentum we need to move on, and to alleviate some of that our own existential fear. Because the truth of the matter is in a lot of this, there is a less capable person. There is somebody that doesn't have the full wherewithal to manage this stuff, at least in the initial moments of it. So if we give them a little more potency in the initial, then maybe we don't have to do it down the road as much, or we get at least enough distance so we're not stuck in it continually, and to have that perspective that I am the more capable person here. I do have more potency to do this. And what's in the middle of that is our children. And, I may have to be the one that picks that ball up for just a little extra time to get past the divorce. The problem in so many of these instances, Charlie, is that people will get hung up, and I know that you have no connection to this whatsoever, that people get hung up in this for 3 and 4 and 5 years, and what it taps on their psyche and on their wallet and on their ability to actually disconnect so their business can begin to thrive is huge.
Yeah.
And when we can notice that and then pull the plug on it and go, okay, I'm going to bite the bullet here for whatever I need to bite the bullet for however long I got to bite this bullet so I can get out of this mess, it's priceless. I mean, it is absolutely priceless.
Yeah. No comment. I don't know anything about what you're talking about. So before we wrap it up with a practical advice, do you want to talk about moving through the mud, or awareness, acceptance, approval?
Well, this is moving through the mud. This is the place where, when we're hung up in the fears, just like I was talking about, the stuff is grinding on. This is like walking through mud, isn't it? It's like everything is effort, and I can't get out of this mud hole, and we have to move through it. But what gets us moving through it is accepting what is. This is where I am. This is what's going on. And so much of this stuff is wrapped around the denial of what is in front of me, what I am experiencing, and the denial of the components of what we're talking about here today.
Yeah.
So when we can accept what is, then we can move forward.
Right.
And what's required in the acceptance of that is just the awareness. This is where I'm at, acceptance. I'm in it, acceptance of it, and then coming into the approval of the lesson, the non-polar piece of good or bad, but this is my life. What am I learning here? What is it here for me to get my head around so I can evolve?
Yeah.
And we keep coming back to that conversation, don't we? I mean, this is all our evolution, and it requires a relationship with everything that we've been talking about.
Yeah. Oh, the conflict the struggles are real. That's a sentence my ex and my girlfriend and I say all the time. The struggles are real, right? There's conflict.
Or at least the perception of them are real.
So tools like Our Family Wizard, which we've talked about, we did a podcast, right, with Jai. Tools like Our Family Wizard can minimize the conflict, but no one should expect for there not to be conflict if you're in this category of high conflict, separation or divorce, right? So what's your number one advice? What's your number one technique or tool or what's the word I'm looking for, Brooke? What would you say to somebody where conflict has been a major part of their life with their ex? There's kids involved. They have to do the co-parenting or parallel parenting or whatever. They've got to deal with each other in some way, and it's not been going well. There's just it's not peaceful. Where would you start?
I would start right here. I would start with trying to wrap their heads around what it is that's driving it. What is at the base of all of this? What is at the core of the fight? And to really start to explore these different components that we've talked about today in a non-judgmental way, and not judging yourself and not judging the other parent for, where they're at in these particular issues, but understanding it, because again, these are all shadow components. And when we start to shine light on them, then we're less reactive to them. And then we can start to work our way through it.
Yeah.
Having a coach that can help you through it, having a therapist that can help you through it, but just really taking the time, taking out a piece of paper, writing it down on both sides. What are my issues in this arena? What are their issues in this arena? How do the two relate to one another? And what can I do to take care of my own side of this particular page? And, you and I were talking a while ago, and I've written a lot of stuff. I've written a lot of articles. I've written an instructor's manual for this material. I've written a parenting manual for this material. I've written a book that's got all of this material in it. Mm-hmm. And I talk about it all the time, but I haven't gone back and really read some of this stuff for a while. And as I'm starting to do these podcasts, I'm opening up this material a little bit more. There's some really rich material in this. And, to pick up my book, to pick up the parenting handbook, which is available now on Amazon, to go through and look at some of this stuff. There's some great exercises that you can do on your own to help you get started in this process and to do it. But to stop dancing around, not taking responsibility of being a victim to this is the first step.
Yeah. That's awesome, Brooke. You always bring value, man. Thank you.
You're welcome. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you've had some successes. Are you seeing some successes in people you're working with now?
I see successes in almost everybody that I work with as they muddle through some of this stuff. And it's always a process. This was always a step forward or two steps forward and a step back, and getting their head around it. This is evolution, and it isn't a straight line.
Right. You take it day by day, get better every day, do the best you can, keep listening, keep reading, keep studying, and do the best you can, right?
Right. Talk to you next week, Charlie.
Yeah, we'll be back next week. This was episode 11, Core Issues That Create Conflict, with Brooke Olson and Charlie Jewett. We'll come back at you next Friday. Until then, love you guys. Hang in there and keep loving on those kids and doing your best. Bye-bye now. Brooke, people don't have to wait until Friday mornings to get more content. If this is something that's helpful for them, right? This isn't the first time you've broadcast anything or recorded anything or put anything out there in the world. What are the other ways people can get the help more aggressively or speed up their recovery process? What materials are available for people right now?
Well, I've written a book called The Black Hole of High Conflict, and it's available on Amazon and Kindle. Great. And everything that we're talking about is really compressed and put into there. So this is a really good starter place to get in and get your mind working and to see what these concepts are about and how to start to apply them. The other place that I think that is valuable is to go to our website and look at some of the blog articles that I've written. Those are available there as well. They go into some of these other arenas, and that's at www.highconflict.net. So the book, the website are also really good places to get the material. And also we have classes. We have high conflict diversion program classes that you can get into and get some one-on-one help with this as well.
And you know me, I'm aggressive. Whatever I want to become good at or learn, I find someone who's good at it and pay them and hire them and shorten my learning curve. What if somebody just wants your help? Somebody says, Brook has this information. He's good at something I'm not good at yet, and I want to work with him. Do you have any type of coaching or consultations or anything like that?
Absolutely, I do. I do one-on-one coaching for custody cases. I help people get ready for family court services. If you've got that in your community, I work with attorneys and clients to help them with managing and strategically setting them up to have more successful cases as well.
And how do they reach out? You want them to just go to the website or email or phone, or what's the best way for them to reach out, raise their hand, and say, I need some help?
They can email me. My direct email is brook@highconflict.net. That's BROOK at highconflict, HIGH, conflict.net.
Perfect. That's everything everybody would need to get some help, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Brook.
Thank you, Charlie.